not collapse in a single explosion. It collapses when an army runs out of sea. In October 1781, nearly 8,000 British soldiers stood on a narrow strip of Virginia coastline, fortified, disciplined, and waiting for sails that never came. What unfolded at Yorktown was not a last stand. It was a calculated suffocation, and it ended the war. By the summer of 1781, General Charles Cornwallis had moved his British army into Virginia. He had spent months chasing rebel supply lines across the Carolinas. His campaign had been aggressive, tactically sharp, but it left him exposed. Cornwallis eventually chose Yorktown as a defensive position, a deep-water port on the York River. From there, he believed the Royal Navy could resupply him, or evacuate him if necessary. In correspondence with British Commander Sir Henry Clinton during the campaign, Cornwallis admitted the difficult position he was in. He wrote,
"I have ventured these operations, as I could not remain here without losing my credit, nor could I retire without risking the loss of the troops."
Cornwallis believed the sea would protect him. That assumption would decide the war. In August 1781, George Washington received critical news. The French fleet under Admiral François de Grasse was sailing north from the Caribbean. If the fleet could block the Chesapeake Bay, Cornwallis would be trapped. Washington pivoted immediately. He abandoned plans to attack New York. Instead, he marched his army south, coordinating with French forces under the Comte de Rochambeau. This was not symbolic alliance. It was operational unity. As modern historian Ron Chernow later wrote,
Yorktown was a masterpiece of Allied cooperation. It was the first and only time in the war that the French and Americans achieved such perfect synchrony.
On September 5, 1781, the French fleet met the British Navy at the Battle of the Chesapeake. The engagement itself was tactically inconclusive, but strategically, it was decisive. The British fleet withdrew. The entrance to the Chesapeake Bay remained under French control. Yorktown was sealed. Washington immediately recognized what that meant. Writing privately that month, he told one of his correspondents,
"The game is pretty near up."
He was not celebrating. He was calculating. Cornwallis had just lost his escape route. By late September, Franco-American forces surrounded Yorktown. Approximately 17,000 Allied troops faced roughly 8,000 British soldiers. The siege began the European way, not with reckless assault, with geometry. Parallel trenches were dug under cover of darkness. Artillery batteries were positioned with mathematical precision. Cannons were hauled across muddy ground. On October 9th, the bombardment began. French and American guns opened fire simultaneously. For days, artillery pounded British defenses. British guns answered at first. Then fewer did. Then fewer still. Washington observed from forward positions. He had waited 6 years for this moment, and he reminded his officers of what was at stake.
"The eyes of all our countrymen are now upon us."
By October 14th, Allied trenches had advanced close enough to threaten the final British defenses. 2 fortified outposts blocked the siege lines, Redoubt 9, Redoubt 10. Both had to fall. The assault would be carried out at night. No muskets, bayonets only. Silence until contact. French troops stormed Redoubt 9. American light infantry advanced against Redoubt 10. The attack was swift and decisive. Afterward, Alexander Hamilton wrote to his friend John Laurens describing the assault. Hamilton reported,
"The assault was made with so much resolution that in a few minutes we were in possession of the work."
The redoubt had fallen. British outer defenses collapsed inward. Yorktown was now under direct artillery domination. Cornwallis attempted one final desperate move. He tried to ferry his army across the York River under cover of darkness, but a sudden storm scattered the boats. The crossing failed. The army remained trapped. Cornwallis now understood what was inevitable. In a letter written during the final days of the siege, he admitted the reality of his situation.
I shall have the mortification to surrender.
On October 17th, 1781, a white flag appeared above the British lines. Negotiations followed. On October 19th, British troops marched out between ranks of French and American soldiers. Cornwallis himself did not attend the ceremony. Instead, General Charles O'Hara formally presented the surrender. The Marquis de Lafayette later described the moment with theatrical clarity. He reportedly told a French officer,
The play is over, Monsieur le Comte. The fifth act has just come to an end.
The war did not officially end that day, but Britain's will to continue it did. Peace negotiations began the following year. In London, the North government collapsed. Historian Barbara Tuchman later summarized the significance of the moment.
The surrender at Yorktown was the most important event of the century. It gave birth to a nation that would change the course of world history.
Yorktown was not won by rhetoric. It was won by coordination, by naval timing, by siegecraft, by patience, by digging, by waiting. An army had been trapped, a calculation had been proven correct, and a war that once seemed impossible to win had become mathematically unwinnable for Britain.